Oi, oi! Hello and welcome to Cheltenham November meeting. Sort of a preview, obviously. We've only just got the entries in, so final decks aren't there. There's a few big fields, but Jamie has kindly offered me some of his time. We were going to talk about the horses anyway, so we thought we'll just record it for your pleasure. If you do like it, please do like the video. There's loads of people still watching that aren't subscribed. We're up at 11 o'clock. I'm going to be into the early hours putting this up, so just subscribe. Thank you very much. Jamie, how are you?
Great, Dave. And yourself? Great to be back.
Oh, mate, yeah, it's good to have you back. I'm buzzing. It feels like ages since we've done one of these, me and you anyway. And obviously, I ignore everyone in the summer. We've been chatting a little bit on WhatsApp, but it's good just to get this done. Nice to see your face.
Oh, great to see your face too, Dave. Smiley face.
Right, well, we've got the niceness out the way. I reckon we'll just crack on. We've got 3 days to go through. Obviously, not every race is really worth talking about, but if we've got anything worth mentioning, we'll say it. So, the first race, which is a conditional jockey's handicap hurdle, there's so many entries in it. There's 58. I just did a little bit of profiling on it, and I've managed to whittle it down to a couple of like major interests for me. Enemenemynemo. What's his name? Mr. Jeffries. He won the finale or the last race on this card last year. So like Cheltenhamish form. I know we'll see hot trainers and stuff like that banded about everywhere. I think he's got a bit of a chance, but he's entered in the Ballymore trial and another handicap maybe. He's entered in a couple of races, so we'll see where he goes. This is the race he should come in, I think. The other one that I think has got a good chance just on the profile and his stuff was Neon Moon for Mr. Pipe. He's the trainer's won 2 of the last 6, but when I say about the profile any bit, just did it since 2014, so it's fairly recent stuff. Last year's winner it was a handicap debut, about a 22-day break. All before that though, we had 200-day break, 288-day break, 309-day break, 261-day break, 254-day break, and a 640-day break. So, like, I'm looking for horses with a long layoff. 5 and 6-year-olds I'm looking at. Also looking at handicap debutants, and there's a few in here, but of the 2 of them, because they fall in the line with the ages, Enemenemynemo or Neon Wolf, but the latter would be my preference at this point. I'm going to guess this is a race you haven't really looked at because there's too many thousands of horses.
I like one, Dave, if the post that came through there, and he's jacked up with Larkin Williams' Scatman off of rating of
122.
122. I suppose the way I'd look at Dave, he's won 2 Mickey Mouse races around Muscle Brand, Newton Abbott, but the form of his bumper is the one that interests me at Ascot. Soaring Glory 1, Kiva Commando was 2nd, Brave Man's Game was 3rd. Is there any one other horse in this field who has form and run at a decent bumper like that? I don't think so. It's the fact that Larkin Williams is jacked up. It has me now. He might not run. He could change them. But looking at it, a poke at the start and have a look at the first race at Cheltenham November meeting, it'd be Scatman for me. If he runs, just having a guess. But like for me, it'd be Scatman, yeah.
Yeah, and I think Nicholls did mention him at the beginning of the season, didn't he, that he's ready to get him going and all that sort of stuff. He is a 6-year-old going 7. Obviously, we know Nicholls' horses want to go chasing, so I wonder whether they might pick this up on the way to send him over fences. I don't know. But what I'm going to do is we both mentioned some horses there. Down the bottom, I'm going to edit this after, and I'm going to put some selections and stuff in there. So appreciate we like to waffle the video. I don't know what it will be, half an hourish maybe. But if you want to just skip through, I mean, don't do it. But if you're going to skip through, then subscribe and like. But if you want to skip through, you'll better see what we fancy at each race. And if we don't fancy anything, then it will just be blank. Anywho, that said, move on to the second race, which is the Paddy Power Handicap Chase. I haven't even really bothered looking at it. Like, there's only a small field that's in there, but I'd rather just wait and see final declarations on this, just because that's the way I'd rather play this race. You fancy anything?
I like Stolen Silver here, Dave. He impressed me at Mark Raisin last time when he went out in front. Switched to Sam Thomas, same owners as before midnight, and Sam Thomas seems to get his horses jumping well out at the moment. So it's a bad turnout. To be honest, it had to be more than that. Magic Saint obviously be interest, but looking at it and how bad the race is, and he won at Haydock one day in an novice hurdle against Edwardstone back in the day there. So to be honest, after 140. Maybe he won, I think, that day off 140 in the novice hurdle he was given afterwards. So he's the same mark. Just looking at having a guess, like he's entered, I know he's entered, but look, he just stands out to me, and I think he just might go up in front, jump him into the ground, and hopefully do it before midnight and on to bigger things, because he's rated higher than before midnight, which is kind of strange. But he just stands out to me at the entries.
Yeah, that makes sense, mate. There was another guy I was chatting to about the November meeting. I'll be catching up with him, and he's quite strong on this stolen and silver as well. So it's good to get both your points on that. And where you've talked about him going off out in front as well, that's just something that I think most people know it anyway. Handicap chases in particular, like horses that go out in front do really well. But this old course at Cheltenham, like it's well known that it's very difficult to come off the pace in lots of these races, especially the chase races. So can't blame you there, mate. Then we've got the Novices Chase 2.5 miler, which I guess most people are going to be interested in. My Drogo. You can obviously see why. He's going to be a very short price in there. The field at the minute, we've got 12 entries, so there could be a few runners that come in here. I'm hoping that Gin on Lime comes over. Whether it's going to be good enough to go and beat a My Drogo, I don't know, but I just think this adds some depth to the race at least anyway. Nasalam I'd love to see come in because he jumped left the whole time at Ascot, and he went and won. I think he beat Solo with it, and he still gets that 4-year-old allowance. So you'd think that they'd be keen to run him here. And then we did talk before we started recording, didn't we? And we both think maybe Oscar Elite might go for the 3 miler. But anything in particular you fancy?
Look, we're just waiting for My Drogo. Look, we were talking before. I Am Maximus is running extra on Wednesday and is declared. So if he rocks up, hopefully My Drogo will keep improving. And look, he's a bit of a wise guy. He's horse now, like for the march. Do you know what I mean? But look, there's Bob Allinger there. He said that to come out. But look, should be clear around Dave, and he should win.
Yeah, and we all know that with the Skeltons. Like again, it's common knowledge now, isn't it? But Skeltons novices on their debuts are literally just like seasoned pros. Not saying that they're not capable of making mistakes, but they're just so well schooled that you can see why he's short. It's interesting when we come on to some of the other races later on when you compare the price that he is, again, like I say, as a debutant compared to the other yard one, but we'll talk about that at the time. The cross-country handicap chase. This race used to annoy me a little bit, but obviously Tiger Roll a few years back made a very eye-catching performance this in defeat, giving loads of weight away. So I'm guessing that might be the thing with BALKO to flow, that getting beat here isn't necessarily a bad thing. And looking at the early prices, there's a lot of, like, because he's like relatively short, I know he's drifting out a little bit, there's got to be some value in there, but I will definitely leave this race until on the actual day, see where there's bits of money floating about. But is there anything you fancy this far out?
I suppose the long term, because it's not a handicap in March, I'd like to see BALKO to flow, at least finish in the top 3 anyway. He's got to give a lot of weight to the same ownership as Potter's Corner. I think Potter's Corner has a good chance here, but it's poor, Dave. It's very poor. I wouldn't be named my mess, but I just want to watch BALKO to flow and see how he gets on, and then on to the cross-country march.
Do you reckon there's any value in like backing in pre-race, or would you be the sort of one maybe add him to the bet slip in running if he's going to stay on a bit up that home straight, maybe try and nick a bit of the price?
Maybe, yeah. He's actually decent price, and he's good. I think odds checker I saw it 7-1, so like he's worth a bit each way. I can't see him out of the 3 if he runs, but like I presume they're going to run and give him a little bit of a, like, sure, the last day was a bit of a joke, really, bring him back over hurdles. He's basically bringing Rachel Blackmore back into it from injury. But look, I just want to watch him because if you look at the cross country, you wouldn't be running down the road to back anything for March. Like, I know Tiger Road's obviously going to be there, and this AJS and whoever that other fellow who won here before, I can't think of his name off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But at the moment, because it's so bad and it's so wide open, that BALKO to flow was back to the 6-1 last year for the cross country. So it's look, might not work out for March, but look, he's the one that interests me at the moment too.
Yeah, fair enough. I think that sums it up nicely, didn't it? They could be something at a price, couldn't there? But bollocks, just watch the race, enjoy it. Ballymore Novices Hurdle, the Grade 2, registered as the Hyde. I genuinely love this race every year. Like, there's been some good winners of it in the past. I've looked at this race and I really, really, really hope no Ordinary Joe runs in here, because like they were quite smart with him getting his hurdle winning like the back end of last season, or technically it's the beginning of this season, like second season novice. They did the same thing with Champ. Champ only just got beat when he was he could have lost his novice status. But like, I think there's no Ordinary Joe. The step up in trip would suit him. He's got 2 entries over 2 miles, like the Great Wood and then the Supreme trial. So where he's going to go is anyone's guess, and he'll affect the market in each of those races depending on where he does go. But I would prefer to see him running here than anywhere else. The Gelino Bello won at Aintree, like fairly good, to be honest with you. There was that form between good risk us all. And then there was another horse that was in that race. I can't remember his name, but he went and got beat the other day. Maybe it was at Chepstow. Could be wrong. But that he was a non-runner at Aintree. So Gelino Bello didn't really have much to beat, but won it nicely. But I'm interested in Dragon Bones a bit. Run in the October meet, and I think 3 miles is maybe more her trip. But she gets the £7. If she's officially rated 132 and she was going to go down the handicap route and you give her a little bit of a squeak in that, then she's a 139, like technically rated runner in here. So that means that Gelino Bello's got to run to like mid 140s to be comfortably beating her. It's just tricky to see how the race cuts up. I'm not keen on short-term anti-post. Luttrell Lad, you mentioned before, didn't you, ended up to run in a couple of days as well.
Extra, yeah.
I mean, the only thing there is obviously if the ground's too quick, they may divert him here, but I don't think they will. No, Ordinary Joe might not run here. I just think Dragon Bones 5-1. Like I cannot see how she wouldn't be in the first 3, and the field could easily cut up in there. What about your boy, Off Your Rocco? Is he coming over? Do we think or not?
Well, I just have to get. I have to get and send something there, Dave. That he said in Racing Post he's an attendant runner. So now he want to be a good horse to give him £5 to the field here. Look, he's technically top rated at 140. He has to give £5 to Ordinary Joe, and Ordinary Joe's 123. So I like you. If he doesn't run, I like no Ordinary Joe. Because I mean, like, look at the form of that race in Ascot last year. Like, My Drogo won it, then an Oboe Lad, Soaring Glory, and no Ordinary Joe. You see what My Drogo and Soaring Glory have done. Gelino Bello, you'd have to give a chance. Being in the race with horse that I fancy on Sunday, with good risk at all. Sure, I know it got beat the last day, but sure, it was green as grass. Gelino Bello was third, and I like to move it was second, so that's good form. Do you know what I mean? But I suppose, obviously, I have a little bit of a toe in Mr. Rocco, so I presume if he comes over, I wouldn't fear any of those two anyway, and hopefully he'll win.
And that's the thing with it, because we talk about, well, I say we talk about, I mentioned short-term anti-post, and I'm not doing this year. Like, the race complexion completely and utterly changes if Off Your Rocco doesn't come over, no Ordinary Joe doesn't run. If they both end up running, and then this Gelino Bello's like a terribly short price at 7-4 if they both did line up. So people that are backing him at short price, like they could look up, couldn't they? If they don't come.
I think the smaller the field, the suit our fella anyway. It seems to. Do you know what I mean? If they go kind of, from my opinion of them anyway, if there's no obvious front runner in the field, so if they go nice and slow to start, like they did the way he picked up in the stole and he won easy in the stole, and the ground was only okay, like it was soft enough at Limerick that day. So obviously if it doesn't rain during the week, he'll definitely come over probably, because in my opinion, he likes the good ground. It was good ground to stole that day, and he scampered clear, like, do you know what I mean? So I think if they go slow at the start, which they normally do in those kind of races, no, you never know, you could have a tear away, you just don't know in those races. If they go slow at the start, he seems to get better as the race goes on, and then he's natural speed at the end. That's from our eyes, and that's an opinion with a couple of friends of mine that we watch him all the time. And if he comes over, but he'd have to be a good horse to be given £5 to the field, regardless if it's a small field or not.
Yeah. And then obviously with that, if he's giving £5 away to the field, he'd actually be giving 12 to this Dragon Bones, wouldn't he?
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, I'd like Dragon Bones would be good to come in here, but then if Dragon Bones runs, bless her, against no Ordinary Joe, say Luttrell Lad doesn't run at Exeter on Wednesday and comes here again, Gelino Bello's declared, Off Your Rocco's declared, all of a sudden Dragon Bones looks not a very good muggy each way bet. So I think summary from that is wait till final decks and it could completely change.
Yeah, but look, I give him every chance if he comes over, Dave. It'd be great to see him over. But I do give him a chance. He's a nice horse.
I'll give him a pat for you if he does come over. Right, we've definitely splurged too much on that race. 4 o'clock is a novices handicap hurdle. This should be a quick skim through, but I know I'm a proper graded snob, but I do still like looking at horses lower down the pecking order, the peasants of the racing world, because everything's got a chance to progress, and some horses I think have got more ability than they've shown so far. There's 3 that were like, they're on my list anyway to keep an eye on for when they run next time out. So I'll just quickly skim through them. Cobbler's Dream, mainly like he was on my list before he ran in that listed hurdle at Kempton. I was speaking to a mate about it and I was looking at the prices. I said, I want to take on this 2 for Paul Nicholls, thought he'd be short and he wasn't. Cobbler's Dream, I said I'd potentially like that, I'd maybe lay 2 but if Cobbler's Dream was a big price, I'd maybe back him. And then he ends up going off at 10 to 11. So like the market just had it all maybe sort of in agreement with me, and it didn't quite pan out. Cobbler's Dream, they just said he was never travelling, but he's still finished in and around 120s and 130s horses. He's given a mark of 119, which like I just think that looks too light. So like immediately of interest, like in a handicapper for that mark, and they've obviously seen that. Samba Dancer for Fergal O'Brien, a mate messaged me and said that was good at the October meeting. Surely they'll run him again. Fergal's got 4 in here, and it's not Samba Dancer that I like. It's City Derby, who's a little bit further down, 111 rated. I'm going to waffle about this one for a second because I don't know if he'll run here or not, but it's definitely one to keep an eye on for the next few runs, I think, especially the day that they apply some headgear, I think. He's got, like, again, me being a snob, his 2 runs at Perth over hurdles, like the Northern Circuit form and the ratings you get up there, they're not worth as much down here, I don't think. But his penultimate run was under Brian Hughes, so wasn't the stable jockey riding then. And he was very softly handled. He jinked 2 out, travelled quite nicely, but just took a little bit of time to get going when he was asked. And he was barely asked, to be honest with you. So I think he was better than that performance. He did unseat in a bumper, so I don't know whether he's just a bit of a nervousy horse now because of that. Anywho, Paddy Brennan rode him the next time against Brian Hughes. Brian Hughes had this odds-on poke, and then this was like a second fab behind it. He won easy. Paddy Brennan was scrubbing from 2 out, and again, the horse took a while to warm up to get going. He had his head carried a bit high, was quite green, he idled, but like he was definitely much better than the bare result of that. Now, don't know how good that one is in seconds, but he beat that 3 lengths. That horse is rated again on the Northern Circuit as 120-ish, I think, or something like that. There's like form in with a horse, like there's ratings too low. Like I reckon this is comfortably a 120s horse. So we're talking about him maybe being a stone in. Just depends whether he runs him or not, but I wanted to mention him. And then KALYPTRA, Nick Mitchell used to have these horses. He's gone to Ralph Smith, or Ralph Smith's taken over the license anyway. Sherborne Utilities. I've got some sort of weird horse fetish for these runners at the minute because they just keep catching my eye. And this KALYPTRA, like, I think he's potentially going to be going in somewhere. Like, he ran behind Confirmation Bias, who hasn't really done a lot for Paul Nicholls since, but I know they thought a lot of that horse. He's run at Wincanton, I thought was okay for like a first comeback run, and I think 108 is just another one that's too low. So he's another one I'll be sort of keeping an eye on. But there is 26 runners in here. I could change my opinion when it comes near it, but I've said enough, haven't I? Was there anything you like in the race?
Mentioned the first fella, Dave, Cobbler's Dream, yeah. Listed hurdle there with 10 to 11 the last day. It all depends. If Tulin is declared as well for extra on Wednesday, Tulin wins, I'll be backing Cobbler's Dream on Friday, definitely, yeah.
Nice. There was one as well before, just so we can get it mentioned, that you did mention here, the pipe horse, isn't there?
Oh, the Colchari is Philly, getting all the allowances. First time running in France. Be interesting. Normally did. Sometimes people do run the 3-year-olds in these type of races, right? He'd be interested, but I'll be definitely watching the Tulin race during the week. And if that wins, I'll be back in Cobbler's Dream.
Nice. So we've got some literal form lines hopefully coming in this week. We'll move on to Saturday, which I don't think it's debatable. Like, I think is the worst day's racing of the 3 every year anyway. But there's still some nice races. We kick off with a Grade 2 juvenile. Most of the time, the winner of this race is like 2 to 1 or less. I think 7 of the last 11. Wolf of Windersham was the last double figure price winner in 2009, and my brother-in-law backed him that day, so it was even worse. I would not be interested in having a bet in this. I have backed in this race a few times in the past. I've got it wrong plenty of times, even though I've been backing things at short prices. Like, I don't see any value in getting stuck in this race. But is there anything you would suggest is worth backing or you fancy?
I just want to watch Magistrato, Dave. I thought he was impressive with Chepstow. To be honest with you, I thought there'd be definitely more strength and depth in this. But no, there's not even a Nicky Henderson horse type, or anything like that. They come like normally you'd have one. But no, it's just fun to watch Magistrato, and if he wins, he wins. If he doesn't, he doesn't. That's
it. And I think he'll be pretty skinny as well, isn't he? So it's getting like although people, like, everyone's got their own interpretation of value, haven't they? If they're real skinny, unless you're having chunks and chunks and chunks on, then it's not worth it, is it? Then we've got an amateur jockey's handicap chase, just over 3 miles this race.
Wow.
Then we've got the 2 mile novice chase. So basically it's an Arkle trial and it registered in November. This is where I just wanted to talk about the fact that My Drogo is making his chasing debut and he's a 4 to 7 poke. Third Time Lucky was obviously very visibly impressive. Buddy Rich has gone and won unfortunately the ill-fated wide receiver, I think, was probably going to give him something to think about at least.
Yeah.
Third Time Lucky, like, it looks like the form has been boosted. Third Time Lucky's around about the same sort of price as My Drogo is, but we've seen him jump a fence. And I know that like it's all debatable, isn't it? But like Captain Tomcat and Mick Pastor both run 7 days ago. I can see Mick Pastor running here because he needs the good ground and they'll just want to get a run into him because he shouldn't have got beat the other day. I don't think it was Harry Cobden's finest ride. Like I think he should have tried to kick on a bit, but maybe he just couldn't get past. But dropping back to 2 will suit him. But yeah, like definitely all about watching Third Time Lucky, would you say?
Yeah. And on to the Henry VIII at Sandown then a couple of weeks later.
Definitely. Now, like, again, like I wouldn't be advocating betting like lumping or anything like that. But when, like I say, it's just that my Drogo and then Third Time Lucky. When you look at them in and around about the same sort of price-ish, if you had a gun to your head and you had to lump one of the odds on, I'd rather back Third Time Lucky. So there is the kiss of death. Lay Third Time Lucky. Paddy Power Gold Cup Jace. I'll let you go first in this one because unfortunately your horse wasn't running, is it?
Coconut Splash, yeah, kind of sick about that, all right. I look, Protectorate is obviously the profile for it. Grade 1 winner in a handicap. Was it a good Grade 1 in entry? Who knows? Like, you know, you do a glorified handicapper, the shunter third, like, you know, in the season stuff. I can't for the life of me, like, this horse was 14-1 last week, like, Layler, like, just because he's on to Paul Nicholls. I bought into him before, and no. Simply the bets maybe a bit too high, could be there. Al Dancer, maybe turn the corner. Obviously, the Wise Guy horse after being third to All Mankind is Midnight Shadow. For some reason or another, I'm drawn to 2 horses, and one is Nick Williams' horse, Galahad Quest. I thought he was impressed when he beat that David, that Nicky Richards crowd seemed to think a lot of this Marone, is it? And Marone, and it beat and handy at Haylock that day. And I thought it was a good run behind Bobby at Weatherby the last day, and he wasn't even fancy, 28-1. And he travelled into the race like a good thing and just got tired, I suppose, with the fitness. He definitely interests me. And for some reason, I just always have a soft spot for Zanza, and he gets a step up and trip is majorly needed, like, do you know what I mean? He's jumping, it can be a bit erratic, but I think he'll get more time, now they'll probably go good pace for him to aim at. But I think he'll have jump better over further. And look, I know he's won, I think he won a novice hurdle around Taunton over 2.5 miles, 2 mile 3. So he does stay. Hopefully he stays because he's been campaigning at 2 miles. But I think this time, step up and trip, good run the last day in the Holden Gold Cup. He came here really interests me, yeah. But I wanted to back Coconut Smash. Look, he's running extra now instead. But look, they'd be my 2 against the field day. I'm not really that confident, to be honest.
I like it. That's nicely said as well, because I've done like a little bit of profiling on here, which I'll go into in a sec. But like, I like Zanza. I've always liked Zanza. Interesting fact about him as well, because he went through a period where he won every other race. Do you know, during that sequence, I never backed him when he won. I literally kept getting him bloody beat over and over again. And then like no one will ever forget that race behind Sky Pirate at the December meeting where he was cruising, absolutely cruising. So I agree with. I think the step up in triple suit him massively. It's just like again like the trendy thing. Like he doesn't tick enough boxes to be profiled there, but like I definitely like Zanza. Galahad Quest that you mentioned, him and Cool Cody like almost made the shortlist of a few to mention. They only really missed out on Cool Cody because he's a 10-year-old. Last 10-year-old was 1975. So. Or I say last 10-year-old, I think it might have been 11-year-old. Like double age figures don't really do it. Like there's been 3 in the history of the race. Galahad Quest as well, like 5-year-olds. 2014 was one. Can't remember its name. I should know off the top of my head. And then there was another one in 1998, but they're the only 2 5-year-olds that have ever won it. So again, like it shouldn't really matter. Just because I was profiling them, like they were close to it, so I wouldn't put people off of either of those. But the 3 that it fell down on, like you've mentioned him right at the top, Protectorate, like looks laid out for this. Looks like the right sort of profile for it. Like it almost looks too obvious, but yeah. I don't know. Like even 5-6-1, like it's like he's semi-tempting to like I don't know. There'll be specials and all that sort of stuff on the day. Like I couldn't steer anyone away from him. Assemble if he comes over for Joseph. Like he ticks loads of boxes, so I'd be interested in that one. And then again, you mentioned it, Midnight Shadow. I think it ended up being the Wise Guys one. I actually backed him at Aintree. That was the day I went there and met a few lads, and I think he was 28. I think. When I put him up or when I fancied him. And then he did get nibbled in a little bit. And a lot of them were saying that he needs his first run, but he never used to need it, which is why I wasn't too fussed. And I don't know what price he traded him running, but he looked like he was going to win, didn't he? And then I think Itchy Feet on the inside, maybe I think would have beaten All Mankind if he'd have got the run, but he didn't get the run. So that's that. But I think Midnight Shadow should come on from that run. Won the Dipper, didn't it, when Champ fell miles in front? Midnight Shadow would probably be the one that I would fall onto more, because one of the stats of this race as well, not that it should matter that much, but loads of horses that win this carry 11 stone or less. I think it's 14 of the last 19. And of the three that I mentioned there, Assemble's top weight, Protectorate will be 11 stone 10, Midnight Shadow would get in at 11.3, and that's if Assemble runs. So again, the weights could put off. But then that brings in the likes of, like you mentioned, Gallagher Quest, Zanza, even Cool Cody. It looks a pretty decent race, like it always is, but I've got a few on the short list, is the long and the short of it. So we've helped the people no end, didn't we? Then we've got a listed handicap hurdle. What did we say? What did we look in this? I'm sure there was something we talked about. Oh, yeah. There was a couple of semi-interested. Dragon Bones, I said that could go in the hide, could run in here. But is there anything that you like before I start waffling again?
I always have a soft spot there for Proxima. Always had. Now, did you really stay well the last day? Maybe. Has won at Cheltenham before. Has won at the April meeting before. I suppose the quicker, better the ground, the better his chance. I'd wait to the day to back him. Now, I know he's dropped with Harry Skelton, obviously, but if it's good ground, he'd have to have a chance. He likes the good ground. There's no question of that. Off 145, is he handicapped to the hilt now? Is he better than 145? That's very questionable. One that interests me too, obviously, if he comes back over hurdles, is Sporting John, the lunatic. I think if he runs, if he runs and he wins, it's on to graded races then. Off 146, if he's any good of a horse, he should be winning this time. He should be better than Proxima. The only other one that interests me that I see Fergus O'Brien bought, Dandy Mag, but Dandy Mag won the race per Thames qualifier in Leopardstown last year during Christmas, but that was soft heavy, so maybe he's a soft run horse. But at the moment, tentative against the field is obviously Proxima and Sporting John if he came in.
Nice, very well said. So there's a couple, like Proxima, I like this horse anyway, but I think probably the one bit that you said there's probably right is the 145 now. Is he well enough to go and win this? He's a sort of horse that he, again, like you say, we could wait for the day. You could see how a couple of the races run as well. His price might shorten up a bit, but I think losing a point or two is worth the information you get for other stuff. Yeah. So Protectorate and Proxima could be a muggy double for the day, couldn't it? When we've talked about horses going back over hurdles, Sporting John, I think, like you say, he'll win this, go on to graded races, because he could win this. Could be a stayers hurdle type horse, and we know that JP's quite happy to have one in there. So it'd be interesting to see what he does, because he, especially considering that JP's got so many potential staying chasers, and obviously Sporting John lost his novice chase status last year when he beat Chamblou, which looks incredible form now, doesn't it? But the fact is he can't really jump a fence, so he's got the ability to be much better than a 146 horse. So definitely interested if he runs here. The other one that I think is obscene, and it is obscene because I shouldn't really be saying it out loud, 610 day layoff. It's Elegant Escape. He's 146 over hurdles, got form round here. I think he got beat by Froden, didn't he, in the Cotswold Chase, but we know obviously again what Froden's been and done since. Everything that Kizar's horses did last year, you can just completely forgive anyway, despite the fact that Elegant Escape didn't even run. But he'd be a semi-interesting one for me. And then Optimised Prime for Ben Paulin. He was a horse that I thought was going to be quite good, a little while back. I think I may have backed him for the Lymington Novices hurdle, and I don't think he ran in it, and then it wound me up. But I just think he's better than 129. Well, you'd be taking a bit of a punt on him, but I don't know. It looks a very interesting race. I want to see Sporting John run, just for the fact I think he could absolutely dot up.
He should be better than that. He should be better.
I know it's a lifted hurdle, so it is a reasonably good race, but it does look like it could be potentially quite a good renewal. So that's quite nice to see. Then we've got an intermediate handicap hurdle, which if you look statty wise, it's fairly obvious, because the horses they could have won a hurdle race last season. They can't have won it the year before. It's pretty much the rules of it. So you get the likes of DUSART in here that won November last year, which you mentioned. He was 6-4 fab for the race that Brewing Up a Storm won the other day, didn't he? And he's 4-1 in this. Now I know this is a handicap, but surely if they think this DUSART's any good, I don't know they want to give him experience this season over hurdles. If he came here, he'd be one that I wouldn't be scared to back at a short price in it. Although, in saying that, like I don't think I'd be lumping in on him. OPTMISE Prime's in here as well. So I mentioned him in the race before. So again, because of the conditions of this race, maybe he'll come in. But it's just one of these races because of the way the conditions are. Most of them are like handicap debutants. So it's fairly obvious to say that considering it's such a light thing in there. But if we look at the handicap debutants that are in here, DUSART would be one. OPTMISE Prime would be one. And your man Scatman, I know he's jocked up with Lorcan Williams, but he'd be a handicap debutant in here as well. So I'd just be interested in, again, OPTMISE Prime. I think he's better than that mark. But if DUSART ran in there, I think he'd be too good. What do you reckon?
Right here on my phone, I'm 4-1 Labrooks, DUSART. Like,
you can't, like, I don't know if you can back him.
It has to be one of the greatest bets of all time. Like, he beat Soaring Glory in his novice hurdle debut. Now I know he was coming back after a long break and he was injured and or do your job on a novice chase around Warwick for the week last week. Belfast Panther, I know, did that for the form of the elite, but remember the only reason Belfast Panther won the county hurdle because they went so slow. It was ridiculously slow for a county hurdle. And he just picked them up for toe in the end. So the skeletons were sick that there was no pace for third time lucky in the race. So Jesus, 4-1 DUSART if he runs, oh my God. Like the potential, like I'd have backed him to win the Supreme last year if he ran. Do you know what I mean? Kind of in a way. Like, look, it's grand saying that afterwards. Like, do you know what I mean? But look, he should win. Like,
he would, wouldn't he? And because the way the ground ended up at Aintree as well, like it was a bit, well, it was tacky with it, and the visibility was quite low. So maybe Nicky didn't run him because of that. But that Soaring Glory debut where he beat him at Newbury, that was on good ground. So maybe he does want the quick stuff. So he's going to get it here. Like, I wouldn't be brave enough to risk him short to anti-post because I just think it's absolute suicide. But the 4-1 is, I think, reasonable.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, that's helped everyone. We've put up a favourite in a handicap. Then we've got a mare's bumper at the end. Not even interested in talking about it because the only thing that I will say is you get loads of mares that win this that are like 14-1 or bigger, like maybe more than half the races. So I'd be tempted to wait for final decks, look at everything 12-1 plus and just assume everything under that's too short a price and see if I could pick out a little bit of value. But plenty of form to go by. Plenty of form to go by, but no strong opinion. Right, we've got 7 minutes of recording time. Not to rush this. We'll see how we can get through Sunday. If not, we'll jump back on. So this is the best day's racing, bar none. The Novices Chase, the 3 Mile Novices Chase. Does he know? Like, I think this is a proper horse. Oscar Elite, we're hoping, comes here as well, aren't we? Streets of Doyne, I'd love to see over here. 300-3.5 ran 12 days ago, but is jocked up. I'd like to see him go because he's only going to get better and better with his experience. Just looks a nice, tidy race. Like I'd be tempted to just side with Does He Know because I just think he's probably one of, like, could be one of Kim Bailey's best horses that he's had for a long time. But again, we'll have to find out what happens with it. Is there anything you like in here from a punting perspective, or is it watching briefs, do you reckon?
Oh, it's definitely watching brief. But look, I suppose you'd have to go with course form in Cheltenham is massive. He's rated 147 now. Probably going to have to give £7 out to Oscar Elite. I don't know the conditions raced. I think he had to give him weight the last day. All right, if they ran against each other, I think it was £5. It was £5 or £7. I think it was 5. I'd be Oscar Elite here, but look, of course, in distant forms, as you know, but like it's a watching brief day for me. Like Oscar Elite was obviously second in the Albert Bartlett, wasn't he? Yeah. And Vanillier, look, ran over a stupid trip the last day down Roy, like he's a 3-miler out now. So look, it's a watch and hopefully potential-wise Oscar Elite, if he wants to be any good, it should be beaten. Does He Know? But look, the form is there for Does He Know. He seems to like Cheltenham at this time of year, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Actually, I'd be tempted. Like, it depends what the prices go, but I'm hoping everything turns up against him, and I'd be tempted. Again, like, it depends who it is. I can't particularly price up the market without knowing all the runners. But like, if Does He Know was like 3-1 plus, again, it depends who's running in there. I'd be tempted to say he's a backable price, but we'll have to see. Then we've got a Grade 3 handicap chase. So like, it's an okay looking handicap chase. Tiger Roll's potentially entering here. Whether he's going to come over or not, I don't know. This wouldn't be a race that I'd look at until the day of it, I don't think. But you mentioned Ramses a bit, didn't you, before?
Yeah, I suppose Ramses and Yalenki were first and second last year. Ramses is down £2 and Yalenki's up £3. So work that one out for yourself and you beat him. Do you know what I mean? Ground might be an issue for both. They seem to like it soft. I suppose the improver, Dave, mentioned there, but he's favourite, I think, and I don't really like favourites in this race. But look, he could cut up. Is a horse of James Ewer's called Empire de Mall Day or whatever. Won well at Kelso the last day for the horse that just keeps finishing second from the clouds in Big River. Fourth a couple of times in the Ultimate. But like he'd be an interest. But if you're looking on form from last year, Ramsey's down £2 from winning it last year. Would have to be of interest, yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. And then you did mention Port Stanley as well, who's one that I'm going to keep an eye on. What Mark is
there, yeah. Be like, I could be interested for him.
Mark. Nice. So another one to wait for the decks, really. Slower chase, like it is the best race of the weekend in terms of class. Got 5 of the 6 of course and distance winners. The only one that's not is Nube Negra, who obviously dotted up in that grade 2 at Christmassy time. Like I always just try to look for a reason to put the kettle on, and I don't think there is any reason to anymore. Like I didn't buy into the ROUGE VIF handicap win last year, but that did come on really quick ground, and maybe that's really what he needs. So, like course and distance win, like I said, loads of them got in there. Like I wouldn't have a bet in the race. If someone said to me, "Here's a tenner stick on something," I'd probably back ROUGE VIF just to take a bit of a punt because I just can't put the kettle on. And I think the only reason Bryony Foster's ended up being lumbered with ROUGE VIF is because Harry Cobden will never not sit on Bullet Log where he's given the chance because he threw away a champion chase ride. And then we know Bryony can ride a horse. So I wouldn't be having like too much of an opinion, but I can't wait to see the race. It could be quite good, couldn't it?
Oh, it could be, Dave. Put the kettle on, I suppose, is unbeaten at Cheltenham, isn't she? I thought she struggled last year in the race, but it was soft. I don't know. I don't like Nube Negra. Now it could win and could be towed into the race by ROUGE VIF. Pick it up at the end, maybe. Put the kettle on last year. Paul Nicholls' horse that won the Arkell grey horse. Can't think of his name. Was winning all the way up to the line. She got there in the end. It was soft enough that day. Definitely decide bombed like he always does. He's definitely decides one season on, one season off. But for some reason, if the ground is good and it's first time out, for some reason, I do like ROUGE VIF because, as you said, Bryony will go out in front, make it a good test, and if it's good, quick ground, the only horse that I can see it pick up for a toe in the end is Nube Negra, but it could be too far in front. So, like 8-1 at the moment, ROUGE VIF. Look, it's rated 161. I know Put the Kettle On is about 159, but she does get to £7, which is massive. Yeah, massive. And she's unbeaten at the course. But at the moment, at the prices, you'd put it going to be 8-1 ROUGE VIF is good value.
Yeah, fair enough. So it's one of those, like I said, I don't even know if I would be back. Like I probably would. Might stick him in some perms or something. But the good news is, hopefully, Chatham Plus is going to go over to Tingle Creek. So we'll see if it was the travel was the issue or whether it was Cheltenham was the issue. But nothing's going to beat this guy anyway. So Greatwood Hurdle, grade 3. I'm just going to remind everyone that I put up Nietzsche a few years back. I know you fancied him as well that day. So hopefully we can be in some sort of agreement and give the people what they want, which is a big handicap winner. Again, I've had my eye on a couple for this race, but I've sort of profiled it for the purpose of this. There's lots of stats that come in for this that, like, there's a couple that are 17 out of 19. So they'd won over 2 mile, 1 or further over hurdles, and they'd not won more than 4 times over hurdles. Then you get a few stats that are like 14 out of 19, but then it starts to drop down that they're almost irrelevant because they're like 10 out of 19 and stuff like that. But CAMRPOND, if he runs here, would be like a massive box ticker for me. And I'd give him a bit of a chance on the back of that. Like I'd like the fact of him dropping back in trip. But we'll have to see what the great man's deciding to do with an ordinary Joe. Again, we've touched on that horse about 80 times. Cormier backed him in the World Champion Hurdle. I thought he'd win that day, didn't. Meets Glory and Fortune on much better terms now, so like wouldn't be without a chance, I don't think. And obviously I mentioned Nietzsche at the stop. But the perk of having that little break, I'm pretty sure I've just found the winner of the Greatwood, and it's a monster price as well. The best thing about saying this to you now is that I'm going to get your live, real reaction, and I just hope it's a positive one. It's an Irish horse. I think Tudor City's ridiculously overpriced on one line of form and one line of form only.
One.
The run in at Galway where he got beat by Soldier, the handicap hurdle, He got no run towards the end of the race. Very unlucky with staying on. Was only beaten 4 lengths. His Irish mark then was 139. He gets in over here, which we know you're a lot of £7 better than us anyway, off of 139. So he's effectively run off the same mark as when he was only beaten 4 lengths by Saudier. I know that was a handicap, but ground is really key to this horse. And he dotted up on the flat the other day as well. I know he's not the most like prolific winner, but it's like he had a second as well before that. Maybe he's at a bit of form. Like I reckon he's 33s on best odds that I can see here. I think he's a stupid price if the ground is really as quick as we think it might be. The perk we'll have as well, because it's Sunday and it's the third last race, would have seen the times, would have seen what all the horses are doing. So we'd know if it's genuinely good ground or not. And obviously we'd know by then if he comes over. But if they bring Tudor City over, probably doesn't take any of the trends in the slightest, but I think he's monster price. Do I have your approval or disgust?
For me, Dave, no. I suppose there was a horse that no one needs that interested me if he came over, but now Jesse Evans is still there, but I wouldn't touch him. Castmate was one that was the entries earlier that really interests me, but he's not coming over. I suppose the Wise Men's horse would be no ordinary Joe if he runs. There's been a monster punt on West Cork. I can see where they're coming from in a way, but he was beaten by an absolute lunatic that day. Was it the Dovecote? Highway 102, whatever his name is. He was second, West Cork. Third, I can't remember, but fourth was Buzz, I think that day, wasn't it? And look what Buzz now is another Wise Men's horse for the stairs hurdle. He's improved, obviously, but no, not for me. I really starting to like CAMRPOND. Yeah, to be honest, yeah, Off Your Rocket was supposed to come over and race against CAMRPOND in October, and we thought we'd beat CAMRPOND. So look, that's just only us being in our opinion, because it was the same. We both had the same mark of 140 on the day. He's still 140, I think, CAMRPOND. So yeah, the quicker the ground, the faster they go. I mean, like did he win? Did he win that? There was the second at the entry that day, and he threw it away last year. I suppose he interests me. The other horse that interests me is, we mentioned there before we come on. I hope someone doesn't kill me for this, but Alex Days Oboe was third to a horse of William Mullins now. Now I know he was beat 9.5 lengths by a horse called Hugh Briscoe, who now owned by the Richies, who was outside Poe for the Supreme. Alex Days Oboe, very green at Fontmed at the start. He was second on debut. Then he went on and won, and now he's been thrown into a Greatwood. So if this Hugh Briscoe is as good as everyone thinks he is, and everyone's saying that this Alex Days Oboe, you'd have to give him a chance. And if he wins, that'll just advance the form for Hugh Briscoe whenever he comes out.
Yeah, like it, mate. It's an interesting one, because that Jesse Evans was also in that Galway hurdle race, a couple of lengths in front of Tudor City, but £4 worse off this time. So, I mean, if you fancy that one, then you fancy mine. Touching on that race at Aintree as well, because obviously horses progress at different rates, and some go up, some go down. Some will never be better than what they show early on. Roland Ward was the one that beat him in that dodgy finish, but CAMRPOND should have beat him. So he's £9 better off than him. So the fact that we like CAMRPOND and the fact that Roland Ward is a 33-1 poke, it almost makes you feel like back in the day when I put up 2A per me to win that race over in Ireland, and then I said the Jam Man was the only danger, didn't back the Jam Man as a fucking saver, and the Jam Man goes and wins. Like Roland Ward would be the sort of horse that I think, if I were backing CAMRPOND, if he does line up, I'd have a saver on Roland Ward as well. I could end up backing a couple in this race, I think, but Tudor City, if he comes over and run, Roland Ward, just for the purpose of saying that, I'll have a little tickle on. And if CAMRPOND runs, it depends what price he goes, because I think a lot of people will like him. I think he might end up going short, but if I can get double figures about him, then I'd be tempted to play. Happy with that?
Look, that was the other one. Was it Aintree? Oh yeah. When was it the Swinton? Yeah. I really like that horse of Ollie Murphy's. I know he's not going off the point there. Ollie Murphy's horse, Copperless, won the Swinton. CAMRPOND was third, right? And you mentioned a horse that actually finished, was he 2 lengths ahead of CAMRPOND, was Cormier. So you'd have to give Cormier a chance on that lateral form there, because I really think that Copperless is a very good horse. Travels like a good thing. But yeah, that's like you'd have CAMRPOND, Cormier, and then I actually looking at it now with the form, you'd go with Cormier for beating CAMRPOND in the Swinton. Do you know what I mean? So look there too, and obviously look the one with a little bit of potential. Hopefully, will be for because I little tickle on Hubrisco for the Supreme money for the crack. But look, it'd be nice to see him win. So then the only thing Hubrisco's price will start going down for Supreme without him running. The FedEx stays over was the great one. So look, we'll see.
It's a good looking race though, isn't it? And I think there'll be plenty of winners in behind as well that'll be left in there. So fingers crossed it'll be informative as the season goes on. But again, it will depend on what happens with the ground, because if we start getting a deluge of rain and this forms on good ground, maybe it won't stand up as much as I think. Then there's the Supreme Trial, another grade 2. Again, no ordinary Joe's got an entry in here. I think he's entered in every single race over the 3 days. It'd be interested to see where he's entered at Punchestown as well. Washington for Ollie Murphy's like an obvious one to go in here. We will talk about some form lines that might come in through the week. Marble Sands is a horse that I like, half brother to Sandsend. He was behind Washington, but he was running under a penalty that day, Marble Sands. He's like a 3 or 4 to 1 poke tomorrow in a pretty pants novice hurdle. And then you're getting 5 to 1 about Washington in a grade 2. So it makes me think either Dublin Falls an absolute, Marble Sands is an absolute good thing tomorrow at the price, or Washington's probably too short. And I think it's the latter. I think Washington might be a little bit short. Again, it changes depending on who runs, but I think I Like to Move It did enough wrong the last day to suggest that there's more to come from him. I think 2 to 1 on him as the short-term anti-post price. Is it like it's similar to I Could Do Something? Like it's tempting. I don't think he'll be that price on the day, and it depends who does line up. But he's the one that I would like, I think, in the race.
Yeah. I suppose the horse we never mentioned the Great Wood was Tritonic. So I mean, like if Tritonic wins the Great Wood, I Like to Move It. Looks like a good thing here. Now I like Washington. I put him in a docket in Bangor that day with Godente, which I'm surprised Godente is not coming here. Obviously, he's probably going somewhere else. But I thought Godente would go here instead of Washington. But look, Washington might be ready for the race. He said with the form of Marble Sands coming out there tomorrow, is it? He should rock up. But it's I Like to Move It for me, Dave. Yeah.
Beaut. And then the finale of the bumper, listed bumper. The only thing that I really want to say on this is I laid Time for a Tune. I think I did the write-up for Chepstow, and I was crabbing his bumper form because Ben Paulin sold the second behind him for like peanuts, whereas as much as that went for 175 grand the winner, I just didn't think the bumper form was worth anything. And then Paddy Brennan got a bit of a abuse for his ride on that second, the Great Heart Jack. But he had a furlong and a half to go past, just wasn't really going by. But yeah, that annoyed me because I think that Time for a Tune is opposable again. But like that was probably the time to lay him, and I did, and I got it wrong. So there's my sub story. But like I'd want to be taking him on again in this. I haven't really looked into the race to find out what I'd want to take him on with, but fingers crossed he's a short. I don't know how short he'd be, but I'll just keep taking this horse on for a little while. The only thing is Nicholls horses, like not like I know he does all right with Bunbury horses, but like they're only going to get better when they run for Nicholls, aren't they? So I better stop laying this horse before I do my bollocks. Anything you think in the race already something jumped out?
Not really, Dave. No. I'll just wait till the final field. Probably won't have to bet in the race. Don't like it. But the best, thing won in October, didn't he? The pipe horse that won the bumper there years ago. It's not really comes out to win the bumper, like, at Cheltenham, like, you know what I mean? Like, so it's just a watching brief for me, Dave. I don't like the rest. I probably won't even have a bet.
Yeah, fair enough. So that is the 3 days covered. I mean, there's no way anyone will still be watching to this point, but I'll just wrap it up for professionalism. I will be speaking to Jamie again tomorrow, similar time, to go through Punchestown for the 2 days there. So because it's 2 days, that will be quicker, but I'm actually more excited about the potential of a couple of horses running in Ireland. So, Jamie, thank you very much for your time. The people would have loved to see your face as much as I have. And I will speak to you tomorrow.
Lovely. Thanks, Deb.